Welcome to Secure Freedom Radio. This is Frank Gaffney, your host and guide for what I think of as an intelligence briefing on the war for the free world. It has been a great privilege of mine to have worked over the years with a man who has been very much in the crucible of that war for the free world for quite some time, often in senior capacities of our United States government, including most recently as the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy. He also served as America's representative to Finland and to Turkey. Today he is a distinguished fellow at the Center for Strategic and Budgetary Assessments and also holds a position as the visiting scholar at the Philip Merrill Center for Strategic Studies at Johns Hopkins University. He is Ambassador Eric Edelman, and always a welcome guest here. Sir, thank you very much for joining us.
Good to be with you, Frank.
Well, I don't really know where to begin. In the course of your distinguished career, you have covered so many of these topics, but perhaps we can begin with the very important contribution you and another of our friends and colleagues, former Ambassador Robert Joseph, wrote about recently concerning the Iran deal. This is, it seems, less and less of a deal all the time, to say nothing of a good deal. Talk about what we have here as a result of this diplomatic fandango.
Well, to call this a deal is really a misnomer. The president unveiled this last Thursday with great fanfare, as then did Secretary Kerry, and the Department of State put out a fact sheet which purported to represent the terms of the deal, if you will. But what we now have seen with the passage of a week's time is that there is a U.S. fact sheet, which, according to the press accounts I've seen, was never shown to the Iranians and therefore was never signed off by the Iranians. Almost immediately, the Iranian negotiator, Foreign Minister Zarif, tweeted that this was spin. And yesterday we had an authoritative statement by the Supreme Leader saying that the Iranians had not agreed to any of this. The Iranians have put out their own fact sheet. I gather there's a French version of the fact sheet that at least some journalists have seen. And then there's a joint statement, that a very vague one, that was issued by the EU negotiator, Mrs. Mogherini, and Zarif, all of which basically purport to say different things about different elements of this deal. So notwithstanding the hype that the president put on it, there is really no deal yet. There's just an agreement to keep negotiating until the next deadline, when I'm sure the Iranians believe they will be able to get even more concessions out of the U.S.
Ambassador Edelman, I have been reduced to calling this national security fraud, because it really seems to me that what the president is engaged in here is not simply a misnomer, but it's a misdirection. It's malfeasance even, that he's claiming to have accomplished things that have not yet been accomplished, if ever they might be.
Well, it is of a piece where the Nobel Peace Prize was awarded before anything had been accomplished. Look, not only was the president's claim a giant overreach and really a misleading of the American people, but there's also another level of dishonesty here. I mean, the president said he hopes for a robust debate about this alleged deal with Iran, but before drawing another breath, he was immediately casting political aspersions on his opponents by suggesting the only grounds for opposition would be politics, not genuine concern for the nation's security, and that there are no real alternatives to the deal, although he said all along a bad deal is worse than no deal. What he appears to be saying is there's no deal other than my deal. And if you're against it, you're a warmonger and in favor of war with Iran. So he's not really interested, I don't think, in a serious, robust debate, unfortunately.
What, in your professional assessment, Ambassador Eric Edelman, is the alternative to what the president has put forth? Is there, in fact, something other than war? And if there is, how do we get to it instead?
War is never a step that anybody wants to take, or acts of war, never a step that anybody wants to take lightly. And certainly it's, I think, an obligation of statesmen to try and find alternatives short of that. The problem here is we're dealing with a level of diplomatic malpractice that's so high it's almost hard to know where to begin. This thing has been very poorly negotiated from the beginning. One wonders if any of the State Department negotiators has ever bought a rug in this part of the world, because you really, there's a certain amount of negotiating style and understanding your opponent and trying to understand what they need and what they want and what your red lines are. what we've had really is a series of concessions from the starting point, which was to freeze and then shut down and dismantle Iran's infrastructure for enriching uranium and also for developing a plutonium pathway to a bomb. And every single one of the key elements of that negotiating posture have been given away over time, to the point that between now and July 1st, one shudders to think what the U.S. might give away, since they've already given away so much.
We have been encouraged to believe that this will, in fact, end all paths to an Iranian bomb. One of the things I'm struck by is the number of people who have made it their life's work to promote nuclear nonproliferation, who are now mustering out to support this deal when, as you say, and I think most other sentient experts say, this is, in fact, to use Bibi Netanyahu's phrase, paving the path to the bomb, not getting rid of it, and creating conditions under which there will both be an impetus for proliferation and a new set of ground rules that will enable it.
There are two facts here, I think, that are important to bear in mind. One has got to do with the sort of non-proliferation treaty regime, and the other is the situation in the region. And both are interacting in a way that is driving the other states in the region who are looking at this negotiation, and I'm talking predominantly about countries that have been our allies and continue to be our allies, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, Egypt, Jordan, Turkey, are looking at this, and I think the prospect of either a nuclear-armed or Iran as a nuclear threshold state, which is essentially what this deal does. It puts the imprimatur of the international community on the idea that Iran, within a very short period of time, could have a nuclear weapons capability. Most of those other states in the region, particularly given Iran's already active effort to establish its hegemony in the region, are not going to sit by and watch that happen. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia has made it very clear that they're not going to let that happen. They have ways and means of their own, I believe, to develop a very rapidly an offsetting nuclear capability to Iran's. And I think then you will see the nuclear cascade that many of us have been worried about for some time, and a number of senior government panels dating back almost a decade have been warning about. And so it is an irony, I think, that people who have made global zero and nuclear nonproliferation their life's work are now celebrating something that, in my view, is driving a wooden stake through the heart of the Non-Proliferation Treaty, which is actually one of the few accomplishments of arms control since the advent of the nuclear age.
Not perfect, but certainly, relatively speaking, an impressive record. We're almost out of time. Mr. Ambassador, let me just very quickly ask you, what do you make of how President Obama is managing the Israeli relationship, and what does that portend for this whole enterprise with Iran?
Well, since the very beginning of his term, relations with Israel have been parlous, to say the least, and it's gotten worse over time. I don't, in my lifetime, cannot remember senior government officials on background subjecting an allied prime minister to the kind of campaign of calumny that Bibi Netanyahu has been subjected to. I don't agree with everything that Prime Minister Netanyahu has said or all of the policies he's followed, but Israel is one of our closest allies in the region. It's, in the first instance, the country probably most affected by Iran's developing nuclear capability. And for the president to treat essentially an adversary like Iran with greater understanding and more sympathy than he does a long-standing ally like Israel is, I think, a travesty.
Well, it's a travesty, and I fear probably it is an invitation to disaster if people recognize this as evidence that it's now open season on Israel. God help not only the Israelis, but all of us, I think. Ambassador Edelman, we have to leave it at that. I'm afraid. I appreciate so much both your past service to the country as, among other things, the Undersecretary of Defense for Policy, and that you're providing today at the Center for Strategic and Budgetary Assessments at my alma mater, Johns Hopkins University. I hope you'll come back to us soon. There's so much more to talk about. Next up, we'll talk with Bill Gertz, one of America's finest national security reporters, about this fraudulent non-deal with Iran, and much more. Straight ahead.